Hello, welcome to another episode of SoFly. It is the end of June, which means it's the beginning of July and the start of another summer. My name is Mitch, and this is Aldo.
Whoa, dude.
Had a lot of coffee.
Yeah, clearly. I'm a little sleepy today, buddy. Usually
Are
I'm
you?
the frenetically energetic one.
I know. Yeah. Towards the end of the day, too, so it's that time of day where I do get a little sleepy before bedtime.
Oh, maybe we can zip the sleeping bags together.
Of course, if you don't know what that is, it's a shout out to a fantastic program, Fishing with John. You can find it on YouTube, where you can also find this podcast. Maybe you're even listening or watching this podcast on YouTube, on the SoFly Fishing YouTube page.
Yes. My God, would it be amazing to get John Lurie on the show? Of course, John Lurie is a musician, an artist, and not really a professional angler, but he made a show in the late 80s, early 90s called Fishing with John, where he had his friends like Willem Dafoe, which is the reference we're making. Go on strange fishing adventures like ice fishing. Ice fishing with Willem Dafoe looked like a lot of fun.
It was a great episode. I've emailed him. You know, he's got the website, but no interest. He doesn't want to talk to us buffoons. But it would be cool. What do we got going on in the community?
Oh my God, these cold opens are just crazy. The biggest thing for us, like I said, because obviously this comes out July 1st, and if you're listening to it, hot off the press, July 13th, the Trout Rodeo is back at Good Lot Brewing. This is with our good friend Phil, who owns Good Lot, and he has a great partnership with the Patagonia Toronto store. They do a lot of work together, and this is the third year Phil is hosting us and Patagonia for some films. Drift is going to be there doing some contests and demos, and I'm sure Isaac Walton and Club is usually there with like that. I don't know what to call it, like fly fishing rummage sale.
Yeah,
I got that sweet Barber leather fly wallet for $2 last year.
pretty dope,
which is pretty amazing. Keep all my swinging flies in there. And they do like fly tying material sales and stuff. We're going to be screening our little video from Blue Fox Camp as a sneak peek there. So that should be fun. And then Patagonia will supply some films. We'll watch some films. We'll raffle off some stuff. We'll drink some beers and raise money, of course, for the Credit River.
That's right.
So that's the 13th. We can put the link in the show notes, but if you head over to Good Lot Brewing under their events page is where you'll find the tickets. There aren't a lot of tickets. I think it's 40 to 50 people capacity in the barn where we do the screening. So yeah, get them while they're hot. Sold out every year, so it should be a really fun day. Obviously, July isn't really trout time, but it's definitely a good time to celebrate trout and hang out at a barn, watch some movies. Probably going to be a lovely day.
Heck yeah. That's for sure. Come on out to the Trout Rodeo. What date was that again?
July 13th. It's a Sunday.
Boom. Anything else we got going on?
No.
Nothing.
No.
I mean, that's a good one. You don't want to miss it. If you've been thinking about coming out to an event, that's a good one to come out to.
Absolutely. And like we always say, email us.
Yeah.
DM us with events, and we'll mention it on this very show. But you can always check out all the clubs in Southern Ontario, like the Ottawa Fly Fishers at ottawaflyfishers.ca, the Forest City Fly Club in London. There's the Hamilton Area Fly Fishers and Tires. Of course, Drift Outfitters has so many educational events. So there's lots of stuff happening, and we're going to be talking a lot today about the Friends of the Grand River. So I'd urge people to go check out the Friends of the Grand River as well to see if they've got any volunteer days coming up. But of course, they always need volunteers, as we'll talk about in the show today.
Yeah, we had a great chat with Rob from Friends of the Grand River. That's what this episode is all about. And he made a great point that at the end of the show, Friends is always looking for more friends. And so if you have any time to give up and love the Grand River, you should email them and just say, hey, I got time and I like to do stuff, and maybe they'll have use for you. I'm sure they will, because Well, you'll hear in the chat, the river needs lots of help and friends, just as always. And yeah, and I'm sure they're going to have some events coming up too. Unfortunately, when this comes out, the AGM for Friends of Grand River will have already happened because that's happening today, June 26th. But there's gonna be other stuff coming up. So check them out and check out this interview with Rob, who is a fantastic fellow. We've been meaning to talk with Rob for like quite a while. I think there's a lot of like personalities here in Southern Ontario that we have yet to get on the show. Spread them out, lots of cool people out there that
Do a lot
you
of really
know
cool things.
yeah, like listeners are like, you got to meet this person. Like, these people are like in our community. They're like down the street, so to speak. So, of course, we love to do that. Those are always some of our favorite shows, and so this is one of those. Really get to dig into the Grand River and give it some more love. We've talked about that river on the show over the years a couple times, but I think it's a famous Ontario river, and maybe we'll do another show on it one day, like
I mean, we'll definitely have to.
yeah, like remember we did that one for the credit, episode 1 something, where we did a
Yeah.
whole show about the credit and interviewed different people on the credit and
Yeah.
stuff. That could be fun.
Oh, for
But
sure.
it starts with this. Rob from Friends of the Grand River and an introduction to the Grand River if you don't know what it is, if you live outside of our bubble. It's a great trout river. Rob, thank you for coming on the show. Here is that chat after these words. Rob Voisin is the owner of MV Real Estate in Fergus, Ontario, and of course, a passionate angler whose roots run deep in Southern Ontario fishing community. He spent 15 years working in the nonprofit affordable housing sector and transferred the experiences he gained there into a role on the board with Friends of the Grand River. Friends of the Grand River is a volunteer driven nonprofit organization based in Fergus, Ontario, dedicated to preserving and enhancing the Grand River watershed. Since '95, they've worked to educate, engage, and unite people who care about this incredible river through conservation projects, public seminars, and hands on efforts to protect its natural beauty and ensure it can be enjoyed for generations to come. Rob grew up fishing. He got his first fly rod from his parents for Christmas. They also hooked him up with a fly fishing lesson from his dad's pal and Friends of the Grand River OG, Ted Shand. Today, when he's not working or volunteering, you'll find him on the Grand River chasing trophy fish, beer and cigar in hand, enjoying the best snack an angler can ask for. His first fish on the fly rod was a brown trout, but his first time on SoFly is today. Rob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat. It's been a long time coming, I think we're stoked to just dig into the Grand River, Friends of the Grand, of course, your own fishing history. But yeah, glad you're here.
Yeah, so glad you're here. Thanks, Rob. I think we were saying just before we hit record, for not for any reason in particular other than we just haven't yet. We had Nick Groves on years ago, and we talk about the Grand River a lot, but we focus so much on the Credit River, and maybe just because it's just that much a little closer to us. Like
Yeah.
the Grand is so special to us too, and it's going to be fun doing a whole episode on the Grand. And obviously your life.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly we don't need to make it too much about my life, but yeah, the Grand is such a cool fishery. I'm excited to talk about it with you guys.
Awesome. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm here in Fergus, Ontario, so right on the Grand River, and I'm in my office here, my real estate office, and it's funny, not to dive too far into my life, but I almost live in Fergus because of the Grand River. Not almost, I 100% live in Fergus because of the Grand River. It's like shaped my life. So I grew up in kind of the country Kitchener Waterloo area, and once I started fly fishing in kind of my teens, I was like constantly, get home from work and like make that 45-minute drive to Fergus, Elora as soon as possible, get on the water. And yeah, for like 6 or 7 years, that's what I was doing like every single day. And, life gave me an opportunity and my wife to move out here and start our family and raise our family here. And I had the opportunity to buy a house that backed onto the stretch of river where I caught my first 20-inch plus brown trout. So it was like a full circle moment for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
I love Fergus, man. I think it's a great little town. It's beautiful there. I love it.
It's so awesome. Honestly, it's like the fishing is obviously one thing that we would bond over, but like in terms of community to raise a family, it's like I can't think of a better one in Southern Ontario personally.
Totally. Yeah.
It's big enough and small enough, if that makes sense.
Well, and the cool thing about Fergus for people who've never been, the little downtown or whatever you want to call it, the main drag, their main street. What is the street called? Is it Main Street?
Yeah, St. Andrew Street.
St.
Yeah.
Andrews, all the businesses that overhang the cliff on the
Yeah, yeah.
Grand, and including the fly shop, obviously, but just restaurants too. That back patios all look over the river.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome.
Totally, man.
And some historical buildings. Like, we're starved for historical buildings sometimes here in Ontario, and that town's done such a good job at
That's really pretty.
really being pretty. It's a pretty
Yeah,
town.
no, it's epic for sure. And then you've got Elora, which is like the
course.
main tourist draw. So I got the best of both worlds. I live in Fergus, and I can still visit Elora. It's like 7 minutes away. Really the same community, but I can be a tourist there. And then you've got the sprawling Elora Gorge to fish there, and it's cool to have different waters everywhere. And then, like I say it all the time, we're blessed in this community. We've only got 30,000 people in Center Wellington between Fergus and Elora, yet we've got like Meadow Fest, we've got River Fest, we've got all these massive concerts and events that are drawn 20 to 30,000 people at a time to our, like, doubling our community in size just for concerts and cool things like that. So it's the special setting that you mentioned, Aldo, that I think is what creates all of the other cool culture. Highland Games, second biggest Scottish festival in the world outside of Scotland. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I love all the Scottish influence there. It's awesome. Okay, well, let's talk maybe a little bit quickly about your fly fishing background, how you got into it, and then we'll go on to the Grand, because I'd love to just talk more about what you love about the Grand, what the Grand is, and all that stuff. But before we get there, you got a fly rod as a kid for a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Did you know anything about fly fishing at that point?
No, I mean, I could show you pictures of me holding up catfish at, the Conestoga Dam at 2 years old. So, like, I've fished as long as I can remember. And I was probably, 15, 16, somewhere in there, where already obsessed with angling, and the fly rod got put in my hand. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I got kind of hooked up with one of my dad's old buddies, Ted Shand, who happened to be part of Friends of the Grand. He took me out on the Grand for my very first lesson. I had actually kind of in between that gone out on the Conestoga River. I used to fish walleye at the bottom of the dam and decided to take the fly rod with me that day. So I did a little bit of jigging for some walleye without the fly rod, and then I just strapped on the backpack and started walking down river, thinking, honestly, I reflect on this because it's funny. I don't even think I knew I was fishing for trout. I just was like, I'm going to try out this fly rod thing. And it was like right place, right time. They probably stocked the river like the day before or something, but I caught like 15, brown trout. And it was like that moment was like, not only is brown trout and fly fishing so cool, it's super easy, which was obviously a lie. But that was really what kind of got me. It's what escalated from like kind of traditional angler to fly angler for me. That was the beginning of the journey for sure.
Okay, so it was just that first time you literally hooked into a bunch of fish. You're like, that was a cool experience, and snowballed.
Well, and in your head, when you're not a fly angler, like you build it up to believe it's something so much more challenging than it really is, right? Like it's like crossing that, like cresting that like barrier in your own mind. And I did it kind of by myself. But now I went another 5 years before I caught a fish that was even worth talking about. Like I was, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those things where I pounded stalkers for a day thinking I was like elite at fishing, and never caught anything over 10 inches in my next 5 years of trips out on the Grand or the Conestoga.
Yeah. Just slamming the little guys and like, this is the best, man.
Yeah, totally.
Top of the world.
It's a good point, because when we do like our intro to fly fishing classes, wherever they end up being, it is funny. There is that mental hurdle where you're like, is this as hard as, obviously, to perfect? Maybe you could never perfect fly fishing, but like to just get on the water and catch a fish, it isn't the most.
Kind of breaks it down for you.
Yeah. Well, especially once you already have
get
kind
on
of
the
baseline knowledge, like I had already been a center pin angler and all that. So like you understand kind of the nymphing concepts, and the jump wasn't too big, but I do remember sitting on rivers as a kid and seeing that one guy walk by with the fly rod and go like, wow, that's crazy. That guy must be insane.
Yeah.
So it is that you do build it up to be more in your head than it is. I'm always trying to convince people that it's simple at
Yeah.
this point of my life.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you kind of, got into it first just chasing brands. Where did your fly fishing career go from there? Like, have you explored a lot of other spots, or you spent most of your time kind of on the Grand?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been fortunate to fish lots of different places in the world. Not only fly fishing, I'll fish kind of anything, anytime, obviously. But I've been out to the Queen Charlotte Islands,
Ooh,
taking a fly rod with me there, fishing coho on the surface when they were up around a bait ball there. I've had the pleasure of deep sea fishing in a few tropical places: Bermuda, Hawaii, northern Manitoba, pike on the fly.
Oh,
nice.
nice.
And probably like the highlight, you mentioned the word career. Like, I didn't get paid for this, so it's not a very good career. But I've been on 3 or 4 new fly fisher episodes with one
Oh,
of my
rad.
best
Yeah.
buddies, Mikey Metcalf. So we've had the opportunity to fish pike on the fly. One of the coolest trips I've ever been on actually was, I guess, 3 years ago. We drove up to Nakina, and it was a fly-in trip to a lodge up there, and we were going for brook trout. It was like, you guys know, it's the holy grail of fly anglers, right?
Yep.
And it was kind of like, we think there's brook trout in the system. We get up there and the water is way too warm. The water's way too high. So we spent 2 days just walking and bushwhacking and trying to find any water we could find. And we stumbled on this run that, like, you looked at it and you were like, okay, if there's brook trout here, this is going to be the most incredible run you've ever seen.
Right.
We stepped into it, started hooking up fish. We caught more whitefish. I'm talking like 24-inch whitefish and
Oh, man.
walleye than you could imagine. Like, we're like 100 fish a day. We ended up filming a whitefish and walleye episode. And if you know, like, Colin McEwen or Mark Melnick, we were up there. We had a sat phone, but we're like, I mean, we're supposed to be here shooting a brook trout show, and all we can find is whitefish. Like,
That's awesome.
let's shoot it and like pray to God they're gonna like let us air it. I don't
Colin,
know.
don't kill me.
Yeah, exactly, right.
It's funny you mentioned this. We, we're talking before we started hit record. We were just at Blue Fox Camp with our buddy, our mutual friend Nick, and Nick and I were talking about that episode.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, because we were talking about, he's like, I don't know why we brought that up, but he was like, it was like this. I think we were talking about the Esnagami River and those northern systems, and you never know what's in them kind of conversation. He's like, there's this episode that Rob was in with, and they were just catching salmon whitefish.
Honestly, it goes down as like one of my favorite. I mentioned a bunch of cool places I've fished. That might be my favorite fishing trip of all time. Like, it was incredible. And whitefish are awesome. I would never target them, but holy smokes, were they incredible to fight.
Yeah.
And I mean, kind of big.
Yeah, totally. And we were nymphing for them, and we were swinging for them, and we took a few on dries, and like, it was just. And when you know what it's like when fishing's just end, like, they're every 5 casts you're hooking up, and it's just had a cigar and a scotch, as soon as the camera was off with my buddy, and it was so much fun. We keep fishing once the cameras are done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a really special trip that I'll remember, and luckily it's well documented on film.
Yeah,
I love it.
And and then that episode, all about the Friends of the Grand was really cool. I think it aired last year.
Yeah. So, and that was like a dream come true for me. I mean, to be able to fish with Bill Spicer, who I grew up watching. The second I got that fly rod, I probably at Christmas time from that point forward, I'm sure I was watching the new fly fisher to eat before trout season even opened in the spring. So yeah, that was a really neat moment to be able to fish with Bill, who's just as good a guy as you would imagine he would be.
Mm-hmm. He rocks.
Yeah, fishing was kind of tough, and that's the other side of like filming shows, is like, it is hard sometimes, but we got into a few nice fish, and we were able to highlight the work of Friends of the Grand, which was really the goal of the show, and then and catch some nice fish along the way. So yeah, that's probably like the pinnacle of,
Totally.
Like, who would have ever thought, as a young whippersnapper walking the Conestoga in my rubber boot waders, that one day I'd be filming a fly fishing show with Bill Spicer. Pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's a good transition too, talking about the Friends of the Grand, and the Grand River in general. Maybe, like, for people that don't know, like, just maybe explain what the Grand River is. Why is it special as well?
Yeah. No, for sure. So I mean, the Grand River is Southern Ontario's largest watershed, but really what we're focused on is, let's call it the top 27 kilometers from the Shan Dam, which is kind of the bottom end of Bellwood Lake, through about Westmont Rose. That stretch of river, the water stays cool enough to sustain a trout fishery. And what makes it so unique is that it's a tailwater fishery and one of the few we have in Ontario. And it's all because of the dam, the Shan Dam at Bellwood Lake. So in 1972, it was retrofitted to be a low-level release dam. And so now that water is coming out of the dam at like 60, 70, 80 feet deep. As opposed,
it wasn't always a bottom draw?
No, it wasn't. So
interesting.
GRCA decided they wanted to add turbines and produce some electricity, which it still does today. And so they added that functionality to it as opposed to just the flood control. So 1972, they retrofitted it and made it a low-level release dam. And it was like late 80s, early 90s that a bunch of guys around here went like, you know what? This water's cold enough to maybe sustain some trout. And that's kind of how it all began, honestly. And, the MNRF stocked rainbow in there for 3 to 5 years, I want to say.
Okay.
As well as the Conestoga River. The issue was all of the rainbow trout strand in the hatchery system, which is still true today, are migratory fish. And so after 2 years, they're programmed to go look for the big water. And so it took, 3 to 5 years to kind of figure that out. And then they went, you know what? Brown trout are even more tolerant than rainbow trout. Temperature tolerant. Yeah. So let's give that a try. And I think, if you talk to some of the originals that were around, the Larry McGrattens, Ted Shans, the list goes on and on. They'll tell you within like 3 to 5 years, they were like sitting around wide-eyed looking at each other going like, holy crap, like we are on to something here. Yeah. Like nobody knows about this river and we're like smashing 20-inch browns on size 22 caddis flies right now. This is a big deal. And kind of the rest is history, really. So that's the stretch of river we're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's the stretch of river that Friends of the Grand really focuses its work on. And so since the early 90s, Friends of the Grand has been focused on really stewarding that stretch of river. And that means things like all of the trail maintenance, all of the garbage kiosks that are all of those access points. So we're not only maintaining it, but we're picking up those garbages on a weekly basis and taking care of all of that sort of stuff. We're 35 to 40 tree plants into, shoreline rehabilitation projects over time. And then fish stocking is like our signature event, let's call it. Yeah. So this year we put in 30,000 brown trout. And the numbers have adjusted a little bit over the years, but it's a stocked fishery. Friends of the Grand helped implement all the special regulations that are on much of the river. So catch and release, single barbless, no live bait, which is another big reason why the Grand continues to thrive. And you can still continue to catch fish that you can't see other places, 26, 27, 28-inch brown trout. That sustain their size on bug population because it's just so rich with benthics, this river.
Yeah. Well, the hatches are some of the most prolific you see, like in Southern Ontario anyway,
Totally.
It's amazing. You get on that river some nights and it's just, or early morning. And you can see some pretty amazing hatches. Like Mitch and I have been on the river together with some pretty amazing, on some pretty amazing evenings. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful river.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's like kind of like we talked about earlier. You've got I would say we would divide it, us locals would divide it into 3 sections. You'd call it the upper section, which would be kind of from Bellwood down to Fergus. And you're dealing with like limestone bottoms. There's almost no soil. It's like shallow, high gradient runs. And then you get into Elora where it's like really high gradient, but you're dealing with the gorge. So it's really fast technical water through that stretch, challenging to fish for any kind of beginners. And then the bottom section is like meandering farmers fields with like, beautiful backdrops of hills in the background and corn and wheat swaying in the wind. Much bigger, slower, flatter slicks of water that get a lot of early season hatches, our Hendricksons, all of that sort of stuff is going on down there.
Yeah, it's cool.
And some also very technical if you're trying to go dry fly fishing for, a 20 plus inch, fish.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you see them rising.
Yeah.
But it's a tough game,
It's
cool.
it's that, I mean, that's the reality is it's not an easy river to fish in general. I wouldn't say it's hard. Like there's all those stocked fish are in there, and we can talk a little bit about what we're seeing this year with second and third year fish. Certainly make it a lot easier to have success. But yeah, anytime you're talking about the 20 plus inch fish, like they got to 20 inches for a reason.
Yep.
And it gets a lot more challenging, and you time on the water, man, and listen to the guys that know what they're talking about over the years. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Prior to the fish stocking in like the 80s and 90s, was there trout in the river? Like, was it a trout producing river? Never
No,
was.
I mean, I wouldn't. So there was a point in the 70s, even when the dam was being replaced, where it was actually deemed a dead river. Like pollution was an issue.
Right.
So no trout. With that said, there's brook trout in a bunch of the little tributaries that, Swan Creek,
Yep.
Carroll Creek, Black Creek. I've seen brook trout this year in those places. So there is some naturally reproducing population of brook trout in the system. I've never seen one in the main stem, but I'm sure they're in and out of there at times.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like so the river was kind of just like back in the 70s, just decimated by agriculture and whatever
Exactly.
else.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Totally dead. Yeah.
Crazy, man.
I know.
And such an interesting river. I mean, we're going to obviously focus on the upper stretches, but, as it meanders through, let's say Guelph, and then, as it goes down to, meet up with Lake Erie, it's so many different rivers a way, like it becomes this fantastic bass river. There's carp in it, obviously closer to the mouth of Erie, steelhead and Great Lake steelhead and migratory fish like that. And, but it's so cool.
Channel cat.
Yes.
Yeah.
All I've caught in there, you know.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's got it all, man. It's a pretty awesome river for sure.
Oh yeah. It's great. And that upper stretch is like you're saying, to break it down in those three sections, you really do get kind of like it's like this amazing place. Like the lower stretches through the gorge feel very rugged. The upper stretches remind me a lot of upstate New York anyway. Yeah. And the lower, let's say, meadow sections are like this, they're so dreamy. Like you said, it's like the corn swaying in the wind and bugs on the water, and the wading is so easy. It's just it's a really beautiful place to fish.
No, totally. And all within like, a 10-minute drive of each other. So you can kind of pick your sections, and it's pretty neat to have a crew that, can follow the hatches up as the water warms up to start the year. And yeah, it's a very cool river. It's a cool community to have it in like Fergus, Elora.
Totally.
There's a really kind of special angling community here. And then it's a massive tourism draw. Friends of the Grand did a socioeconomic impact study 3 or 4 years ago. There was one done in the early 2000s, but we replicated it just by surveying every angler that hit the water at every access point. So there's a bit of, jiggery pokery to the science, let's call it. But we were partnered with University of Guelph on it. And like the numbers come out to $3 to $3.5 million of tourism draw every year for just the river. Wow. And that's anglers coming from as close as Kitchener, Waterloo, and Toronto, and they're spending on gas and lunch and that sort of stuff, to all the way to like the amount of anglers I've run into that are here from Scotland or Pennsylvania or up from Indiana because they heard of the Grand or just got here from the Miramichi's their home river, and they've always wanted to fish the Grand,
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I remember hearing about the Grand when I was growing up in Ottawa. Like, it was
the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, actually, like, remember hearing about the Grand before I really heard about the Credit or any of the other rivers down here. Like, it was like, oh, that's the river I want to go fish. The Grand,
Cool.
We had this book at Green Drake Outfitters. Maybe you did it, Float, Paddle, and Fly in Ottawa, but it was like the blue ribbon trout streams of Southern Ontario, or something. And the Grand was like in it. There was like this 2-page spread and all this stuff. And then, of course, there was also the Grand River book.
Yes.
And I remember just reading that so many times while I was working at the shop, being like, wow, I can't believe this is like in Guelph. Basically. Yeah. And I think it might have been the first river I fished when I moved to Toronto.
Yeah.
I think so. 'Cause
Makes
I
sense.
didn't have a car at the time, but my manager at a restaurant found out
Let's
I
go.
fly fished. He fly fished, and he's like, "Oh, well, we got to go to the Grand."
Yeah, exactly.
got
And it blew my mind. I
Did
was
you
like,
catch anything the first time? That's
I think
the
I did
question.
get like a small little, like one of those small,
Well,
like
stockers.
stalkers, but even still,
Yeah.
we saw rising fish, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. There's a legend to it for sure. It's got like an aura, a history,
a lore,
which is cool.
as the kids
What?
say these days.
Yeah. You
Um,
you mentioned the Grand River book, so that's a little bit of a segue to a big chunk of Friends of the Grand's work right now. So Dr.
Oh, okay.
Ian Martin,
Yep.
rest in peace. He was a former board member. Him and his wife Jane Rutherford actually in the early 2000s they took it upon themselves. Well, they obviously built all those hatch charts and everything in that book, and that book now sells for like $400. Like it's crazy how expensive those books are.
Oh, it's
But that's like the Bible here. Anyways, in the early 2000s, those two conducted benthic studies every year, which is like, for those listening that don't know what benthic study is, it's basically the study of the bugs in the river. And they used a certain scientific technique that still holds true to this day. And they were very precise. They were scientists, so they were very precise in their GPS locations, all of their data, everything. Over the last about 2017, this is going to be, I'll throw out my opinion here, which is a little scary, but we started to see a bit of a decline in the fishery, and it was kind of right after we had a historic flood here where like our normal summer flows are 3.5 to 5.5 cms, and we got a rain where like they had to open the dam or
it
we're
was
going to lose
crazy.
the dam, and it got to like 375 cms. And that, my opinion is that changed the river for some time. Anyways, we did see a couple of years. I would say the angler community felt the decline in the quality of fishing for a number of years, maybe even up to this year. This may be the first year we're feeling a big uptick again. But in trying to figure out what's going on, we were able to engage the University of Guelph and their environmental sciences program. And so for the last 3 years, we've actually been replicating those exact studies, same time of year, same location, same scientific technique, same benthic invertebrate. And so we're talking like 16 sites times 6 times, 4 people on the water every time, and then like 400 hours of bug ID work in the labs to document all this. And we actually just got the report like this week. So it's like 7 days old. We'll be talking about it tomorrow night at our AGM for the first time. And then we're going to do a presentation like this. We'll do a Zoom presentation with the actual science people that can make it sound smarter than I can sound. But having that baseline data 25 years later here gives us something really great to work from. Like Cole's notes version is there's still a whole crap load of bugs in the system, but for sure there's been a decline in pollutant tolerant bugs. The closer you are to the dam, the less of them there are. So the further you get from the dam, the more variety of bugs. And there's basically what you're doing with benthic studies. And I know I'm not educating you guys, but let's say our listeners, you're basically studying bugs' tolerance to pollutants and environment. And there's certain like scuds and stuff, you're going to find them everywhere. They could live in a puddle on the road. So you're going to see them everywhere. But certain mayflies are more pollutant tolerant or intolerant than others. And you're using that as kind of a leading indicator to the health of the river, basically. And so we're not here to talk about that study today, but to sum it all up, the river quality gets significantly better the further away you get from Bellwood Lake. And it makes some sense because like there's not only a bunch of cottages and boats and whatever, but there's tons of agriculture above the lake too. So everything flowing into the lake is experiencing a different level of agricultural pressure than it is once it comes out of the lake.
That does make a lot of sense. From obviously you can like Bellwood Lake, again, in a very unscientific assumption, might collect that and then filter down into the river from the dam too, which is that's interesting though. Yeah, cool.
Anyway,
that's cool that just that study just came out, because we can probably follow up with like when this this show
Totally.
comes out, which
Well,
will be
and
really
it's
really
now
cool.
it's like, what are the next steps with that, and how do
Well,
you
that's what I was
address some
curious.
of these things? And we're not there yet. Like I
Of
said, we
course,
haven't
yeah.
even our whole board hasn't even seen the report. There's like 4 of us that have seen it so far. So
Yeah, we have to absorb the data and react later.
exactly, and
Exactly.
talk to people way smarter than me about it, basically. So,
But I mean, it is cool that that study was repeated, because that book, like, I read so much, and it was part of that. Mitch, you're talking about the aura of the river. I think that book was a lot of it too. It was um just made it sound so cool, and like a place that you could trout fish and want to trout fish. You mentioned people coming from Pennsylvania and New York. I've heard a lot of comparisons to the Delaware. The fish
right.
are almost as, or just as technical, and which is really cool. It's cool to hear what you could consider a hometown river, compared to something that's like a blue ribbon legend.
Totally. It's so
Yeah.
easy to take it for granted when it's just part of your everyday, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. So how did Friends of the Grand get started? Because I think it's clear that the Grand has a lot of friends, and it's a river that needs it with things like degradation and that. How did Friends of the Grand come about?
Yeah, no, it's so again, I would say it was more of like, let's call it an influential group of like 5 or 6 kind of anglers who,
Mhm.
were around the river when the MNRF on their own accord started stocking rainbow, and they were part of the influence to switch it to brown trout. It actually started as a Trout Unlimited chapter in the early 90s, and then due to organizational politics, let's call it. This
Yeah.
is hearsay for me, but it was like one of those, like, the money's all going back to Calgary, and it's not. We're going to do our
Yeah.
own thing, right? It was so
Yeah.
Friends of the Grand was born out of that, because we could keep it local and control it and all of that sort of stuff. And it's funny because we mentioned off the top. So 15 years of my career, I worked for Habitat for Humanity Canada, which is one
Oh,
of the
cool.
world's largest charities. Um, and it's like, in terms of how charities operate, Friends of the Grand, like, it's incredible to me that Friends of the Grand wasn't just like a fishing group. They actually like were like charitable, registered in the early 90s, and this group saw the value in it, and made it happen. But like, the work that was happening in the 90s was like, it was cutting those trails for the first time. It was building those garbage kiosks. It was picking up the garbage. It was educating people on the sport of fly fishing, because it was like, there wasn't a ton of fly fishing back then, quite honestly. The sport's exploded now with
For sure.
like cool guys like you doing it. But there was a time, yeah, there was a time where it was like the minority were doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's really how it began. And it's like, as an organization, we've had to morph over the years for a whole number of reasons, external factors, and obviously board changes and people change. And the education can be done on YouTube now. And we don't need to cut the trails anymore. The trails are there. We, may need to replace the odd kiosk. The kiosk is there, which is why, like, today we're working on science stuff, and not the like foundational stuff that group was working on in the 90s, because they've done the work. They've installed the staircases, and
You've got the base
yeah,
laid. Yeah.
yeah. It's like, we just have to recalibrate who we are as an organization on a regular basis. The thing that like makes me most proud. So I've been on the board for 9 years, and it's 33 years old or something like that. Like, it's 100% volunteer, has been the entire time,
That's
which is
amazing.
just so cool. Such a passion project. We're talking like, hundreds and hundreds of people that have dedicated so much of their time to make this fishery accessible and successful, basically. Now, not to discredit like GRCA, MNRF, Ministry of the Environment, U of G, University of Waterloo, lots of private donors, all of that sort of stuff.
Of course.
But that all really matters. But at the end of the day, it's like the blood, sweat, and tears of people, boots on the ground, that are bringing all of those guys to the table too.
I just love when people do stuff not for money. They
Yeah.
just do it because they care about something. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
Well, that's like, for me, I said, like, I came here because of the river. and I had a skill set that I felt like was unique to the area because of my career. And I thought, like, I don't have a choice but to give back. Like, this river has changed my whole entire life. I'm going to raise my family here because of this river.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, how
And
do I
live on
not invest in this? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
no, that
it's
makes
a
sense.
really healthy outlook on life, I think.
Yeah.
You know, you have a skill set and you can help something that can't really advocate for itself. A river, fish, and bugs, basically.
Yeah. Well, and the pressure is going to get bigger. So, like, Center Wellington has been provincially mandated to double in population by 2050. So, Fergus and Elora is going from 30,000 to 60,000.
Oh,
Higher
boy.
density, more hardscape, significant impact on river flows, like water coming into the river. Even things like tire rubber will become an issue.
Oh,
That
man.
needs to be monitored, right? We're going to have to put another bridge over the river at some point for
Yeah.
a bypass. Like, there's a lot coming.
That'll have an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
So-
lot coming.
Did you say it's being mandated to grow and double in size?
It is, yeah. So the province has mandated. The township doesn't have a choice, or like the funding is coming, and the province will dictate kind of how we grow. We've been identified as one of those communities that have the space and infrastructure in place. And
Brother,
like,
we're open for business.
we got to
Mitch.
grow. Yeah.
So wait, the government's saying you have to double. What if it doesn't happen? What do? They close Elora.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're going to invest the money either in partnership with the local government or against the local government. Like, they're
Right.
just superseding the local decision-making body. Like, it's happening. You're either working with us or we're just doing it our way.
And did you say over the next few years?
2050.
Before
by
2050. So,
For 2050, you said, yeah.
yeah, so 25 years, but still 30,000 to 60,000 population.
That's a
There's
crazy difference, man.
Yeah.
It's like the size of Belleville going
Yeah.
from,
Well, and there's like higher density metrics too. I sit on a township committee, which is why I'm also know way too much about this stuff.
Well, you're a real estate guy.
Yeah, exactly, right. So there's higher density coming than is anywhere in this area right now. He'd be used to it kind of in the GTA with we're talking breaking the 4-story rule on condo apartment style. We're talking
Right.
about stack towns so it'll change the face of the community for sure. But like, listen, I'm always like, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. So, and there's a need for housing. And Fergus does meet the criteria, and Elora. So like, I'm all in, and I'd rather be in partnership with it. But like, the river needs a voice through all of this because it's entirely lost unless the river has someone advocating for it.
And it's great that Friends of the Grand River, like you said, Scott's foundation laid, and you guys have a large, prominence in the community because, like, even like, we see it happening with the credit and what's happening in Aaron, and even when people try to organize, really quickly, and they still get like kind of stifled and pushed down, and it's hard, so it's awesome that Friends has been around for a while. You've got a foundation, someplace to build from.
Yeah, 33 years of work. And like you said, you're not running around putting in garbage kiosks. Now you can think about big picture things.
Working with the science community.
We are
to
still
be a
doing
voice.
that. But
Well,
yes.
of course.
Yeah,
of course. There's always day-to-day maintenance, but
Yeah.
it's not taking up the
exactly.
lion's share of your time.
They're just the river has a different need than it had at that point, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What are some so apart from that development, which I mean, it sounds like with that happening, there's obviously going to be a big need for keeping developers responsible and the government and everything else to make sure that friends and scientists are brought into the conversations and things are done correctly, so it doesn't totally ruin the river.
Yep.
Apart from that, 25-year growth development, what are some of the challenges facing the Grand right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I had kind of mentioned the decline in angler experience, if I were to take that angle for a while. And then we ran into, so we were like kind of tweaking our stocking methods, and then we ran into COVID,
right?
Which, like, during the 2 years of COVID, we weren't even allowed to engage volunteers. We were allowed to have like our one stocking guy with M&RF staff, who Jason King has done an amazing job as our leader of stocking for a long time. Anyway, the guy carried 23,000 fish by himself, basically, in order to save them from just being hosed off of bridges, like to just properly distribute them for those
that's
years.
Great.
And then coming
Actually, can we pause here for a second?
Yeah.
let's talk about just like really quickly, like the stocking, like you said, it's probably your if people don't know about Friends of the Grand River, but they know one thing, they probably know the stocking.
Totally.
Maybe just mention that, because it is hands-on work. You guys are paddling canoes into key. You're not just like throwing them off a bridge. You're paddling them in canoes. You're walking them into more favorable lies. Like, just maybe talk about that process just a little bit. Just
no,
it's
for
not
sure.
just a hose off a truck.
No, it's definitely not. And actually, like the MNRF truck guy this year said, like, he's like, I stock for like 4 months straight. This is the only group that brings out volunteers like this and mobilizes the stocking in this way. So, yeah, I mean, there's been a few iterations over the years, and we also manage the Conestoga River for fish stocking as well. And Brad Narr is our kind of hero over there too. But over the last couple of years, we've transitioned from what we would call the bucket brigade, which was like all the fish we were stocking were just like as many humans as possible, because your arms are going to fall off by the end of the day, come out and help us carry buckets and down. And we're at like each different pool. So we got a million stops up and down the river where we're running them down and bucketing fish in, spreading them out kind of strategically in every pool. The last couple of years, we've adopted a strategy that was being used on the on the Conestoga for a long time, which is like a live well in a canoe. And so we're able to, these live wells are big barrels with aerators in them, and the fish, like the survival rate of the fish during the stocking process is like 100%. Like, it's really impressive how well they respond to it. Because we can use hatchery water from the truck, so the temperatures stay the same mixed with the river water. Anyway, we're able to basically spread the fish out, and we do have some carrying buckets in some spots, but we're able to like get way further away from the access points. And the challenge, and this is again us scratching our head as to where's the decline, why the decline. But if we're stocking all of these new fish into A water, like, guess what? There's already 25-inch fish in there. And we've seen the introduction of walleye in a pretty meaningful way after that 2017 flood. Like, it just blew them into this river like you wouldn't believe.
No way.
And we've got more cormorants than ever and more osprey. And so, like, if we can disperse the fish in kind of B and C water instead of A water, we were feeling like it would give them a better opportunity to survive.
Yep.
And this year, even another wrinkle we've added in is we stocked 2 weeks later than ever before. Because when we look at the last 2 years, we've stocked and then we've got rain events, and it's just the 40, 50 CMS 2 days after stocking.
Those fish are...
Yeah, and so we've looked at historical data. It's no guarantee. We could still got a rainstorm for sure, but like historical data suggests by like May 15th, the odds are way more in your favor than they are on May 1st to get a massive blowout event. So we stocked later this year. So we're trying every like lever and button we can push to try and increase survival rate. And we're monitoring it like never before. Well, I shouldn't say like never before. Never in my time here, as we fin clipped last year and this year. The MNRF is in partnership with us doing electroshocking programs to try and monitor survival rates, see what sections of the river we're seeing them be able to successfully overwinter. So again, trying to bring science, less of like Rob's opinion, Aldo's opinion, Mitch's opinion, which does matter because like anglers on the water are probably better than 100 scientists in many ways. But at the same time, bringing science to the equation is what helps you to engage the government and the community and all of that sort of stuff, right? So yes, I think that was not a short answer like you requested, Aldo, but like the stocking program.
It's cool. Super cool.
No, it's cool. It's cool to hear. Like,
I don't know how it's done. I think that was definitely something I wanted to know too. It's like,
it's honestly, it's a heavy lift for volunteers. People don't understand. Like in the weeks before, we're checking access points. We're calling homeowners for access. We're knocking on doors to see if we can bring a stocking truck. We're making sure the roads aren't too muddy on these back roads we want to go through. And now with the canoe stocking, it used to be like, however many volunteers can come, please come. And you'd get 100 people that want to carry buckets. But now with canoe stocking, like we got to cut it off at some point. We're going to run like 5 boats, which is 2 people per boat. And then we, could maybe use 6 volunteers on land before it becomes just too hairy to manage. So it's a lot of from coordinating all of that, the logistics to we always say at the end, everyone gets super stressed out leading up to stocking week every
Yeah,
year. And we always just say the fish are going to get wet, man. Like we know the fish will get wet at the end of this. So we try not to overthink it or overstress, but it's a heavy lift. And I think the fishery has seen this year, we switched to the canoe stocking 3 years ago. We are seeing more second and third year fish this year than we have seen in like 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Well, that's super cool. I mean, it also kind of brings us back around to Mitch's original question, which was, what are some of the other development aside? What are some of the challenges of the river? Just to sum it up, 2017, big flood. Then of course we have COVID. Coming to stocking.
Yeah.
During those COVID years, we were even just hearing anglers speak through the community and people saying, the Grand's not fishing as well as it used to.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard it.
But then this year, all we're hearing is, oh my God, the Grand's on fire.
Yeah.
We had a really great spring in terms of temperature, and we had a lot of really great snow over the winter, which, without any hard data, the past 2 years were quite warm, and devoid of snow.
Yeah.
So it's cool to hear that the Grand is
and a nice long spring, so
Yeah.
that the fish can, I don't know, there's good hatches. There's like a good time for the fish to just like enjoy that.
Flows have been consistent. We haven't had any major blowout on the Grand this year. So no, it's the variables that you worry about have all been as quality as you could hope for this year, for sure. And like for us, it's a relief. Like it's funny, right? Because we spend all this time and energy and passion on stocking the river, but like you usually don't hear the great job, guys. The river's fishing awesome. Thanks for doing all your work. You usually hear like this river's fishing like crap. You guys need to change something up. What are you doing about it? Right. So it's like, it's almost like a relief this year for all of us to be here, and like fishing is back, baby,
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It's like you're dreading the worst Yelp review.
Yeah.
From the worst Yelp reviewers on earth, which are anglers, of course.
Yeah, totally.
Do you ever, it's funny, I just had a thought. Do you ever, you live on the river, you go down on the river, you fish on the river. Obviously it brings you peace and stuff, but stuff might sound funny, but do you enjoy fishing still? Or do you carry a lot of that when you go to the river, like those opinions with you? And can you enjoy the Grand River?
That's honestly, that's such an astute question, man. That's a great question. Cause like, I would say the last 2 years have been the first 2 years where I've started to have some of those questions, and started to feel a different way. Or I walk to the pool and there's a certain person who I know is just going to want to talk shop the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
When all I wanted, because I'm recognizable now on the river.
Yeah, for sure.
Where I just want to get there and like be somewhere where there's nobody. So yeah, I would say like, does it impact me? For sure. It impacts me in some ways, but no, I mean, I'm also like super proud of the work. I'm grateful for the resource, and I'm proud to be a voice for the river still. So the answer is yes. It's like, if you were to ask me 5 years ago, if I could have saw that there would be, I'll negative is maybe not the right term, but like unintended consequences of like being super involved and volunteering. There certainly are some that I wouldn't have seen, but wouldn't change my involvement or anything like that, for sure.
So you can go into the river and enjoy it.
Heck yeah.
I can make like the analogy I'll have is like when I was running bars and restaurants and ones that I owned, I couldn't go to them.
Right.
Because I couldn't go and like enjoy myself at them, because you just see all
all the problems,
real or imagined. So that was like kind of like where my question was coming from, was like, can you sit in your own restaurant?
It certainly feels, when the fishing sucked for a bit, man, it didn't feel great. You're like, ugh. Like there's nothing you could do. I've always known there's nothing you could do. We weren't we're doing everything we can. But yeah, you do wonder, like you sit there and wonder, what could you do differently? And every cormorant that flies over, you want to shake your fist at, and every osprey you see take 5 fish while you're sitting in a pool, you want to, knock out of the air. Not actually, but you know what I mean.
I know, yeah.
Totally.
Like the predation that's another issue, Mitch, is like the predation. I mentioned the walleye. The cormorants are crazy here now. Like we're actually working on putting something together to approach the MNRF about a solution in that area. Ospreys, we love seeing them, but there's definitely more, and they're taking a lot of fish. Beavers are more prevalent than they've ever been on the watershed. And then comes with the urban growth is also like a lot of homeowners that live on the water are still like they're clear cutting to the banks, which is just causing erosion. We've seen that midsection, if you can kind of think of like Can Roberts through the trestle down to like Racket Club, if that means anything to you guys.
Yep.
That stretch is like there's just no more overwintering habitat because it's just widened and warmed so much.
Oh shit!
Dang, what a great stretch too.
Oh, I know, right? Like it's just was one of the best. So it's hard to get like heavy equipment down there too, because we keep talking about wanting to do a big project and try to fund a big project for overwintering habitat in that stretch. But
right, which would be just basically making bigger pools, like deeper pools.
Yes.
It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, one of the things. Well, sorry, can I go on another tangent?
Please, tangent away.
Yeah. So one of the things that the founders of Friends of the Grand, I kind of alluded to this earlier. What was genius for them becoming a registered charity at the time, which they could easily be just like every other fly fishing club or whatever, was they could apply for grants and flow it through. And so Friends of the Grand for years has been partnering with MNRF and GRCA, who have done the work on some huge projects, but all of the money has come through the charity as a group that can apply for like large national grants for work projects. So we're just a bunch of volunteers that don't have the heavy equipment and the technical knowledge and the engineers. But like if we can source $100,000 from a grant from a foundation and bring those guys in as our partners, they will implement it for us. And so the most recent work that's been done has been in that lower stretch. We've had 3 sections, EP 8, 9, and 10, so that we've kind of engineered 10 projects from Bellwood down. I would say 2 out of those 3. There hasn't been follow-up science on it, but I can tell you from angler community, like 100%, 2 out of the 3 were very successful. The third one kind of filled back in on us in that big flood year. So it didn't last as an overwintering habitat. But that's still that's really our leverage as a charity, because we have the questions is like, should we just be a nonprofit, or like a charitable organization does come with some more administrative work. We can give tax receipts and that sort of stuff, which is a benefit, but it really, honestly, like the main draw is the ability to apply for grants that only charities can apply for.
Well, I mean, we do a lot of fundraising for Ontario Streams and their charity too.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been around almost as long as you guys have.
Yeah, maybe longer.
Well, you guys are both at the 30-year mark.
Okay.
They just hit 30 years, so
yeah,
cool.
They're a lot more established than we are, actually. I keep meaning to have more conversations with those guys too, because they've got full staff and they're doing some awesome stuff.
Andrew's the project biologist we talked to. He's a pretty awesome dude.
Yeah,
you two would definitely get along. He's a really nice guy.
All right. Well, I might get you to connect me at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And he loves fly fishing.
Cool.
Well, that's really cool. It'd be cool to like Black Hawk helicopter an excavator on to get those pools or something,
I know.
Yeah.
Or if they start making drones big enough you can put shovels on them.
It's also one of those things, like in the 90s you could roll in a machine and like no one would bat an eye, and today you got to have $250,000 and like take 4 years of environmental assessments. So that it's like it's a barrier that we're running up against right now for sure. So we've been more focused on like the tributaries, Carroll Creek, Swan Creek, try to do some work in those areas, tree planting, bank stabilization projects that, feed the main stem, because getting into the main stem with any sort of meaningful impact is a challenge right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, the tree planting and all that stuff is amazing, because it's the kind of thing that in 10, 20, 30 years we see have the biggest effect. I feel like just because it's so visual. It's like field to forest, and it's like,
totally.
Wow, that's great.
Well, all my kids, they've been going to tree planting for like more than when I was in like 10 or more years. So like they're seeing some of their work that's become forest now already in 10 years. It's pretty cool to watch them get excited about it.
That rocks.
It's awesome watching like the before and afters, I was actually just at the Ontario Streams AGM and like seeing some of their, you see the before and after of the bank erosion work.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, it's like
totally different.
Different. Yeah. It's so cool. And of course, erosion is a natural, it happens naturally as well, but Sometimes it happens because of Christmas tree farms.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's cool when you see. It's actually cool when you see the Christmas trees used to, bring the
Yeah.
bank back. It's kind of neat.
Well,
Love
it's
all
funny.
that
Like
stuff.
it's interesting because we talk about like we're not friends of the brown trout. We're friends of the Grand River. Obviously, trout is like our flagship piece, but we like to use it as like a leading indicator of success. Like if a healthy trout population means that there's a healthy ecosystem around it. And so for us, we try to view it more as an ecosystem approach, not a trout approach. But the trout population is our measuring stick, because let's pretend we just switch to stocking bass. Like there wouldn't be the incentive anymore to do the bank stabilizations or plant the trees or maintain the cold water fishery. It just changes your whole lens on things. So like the trout itself is like the catalyst, but it creates all of this other really meaningful environmental work in order to sustain it. So it's a pretty cool kind of
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
circular thing there.
Trout rivers are just beautiful places. Not that bass rivers aren't, but like,
Yeah.
trout, it forces you to make it a cold water ecosystem, which, yeah, to your point, you get all these cool things.
And you
Makes
wouldn't
a
have been
beautiful place.
excited in Ottawa about a Bass River in
No,
Fergus.
because we had
We
Bang
had
and
great
Bass
bass
rivers.
rivers.
Exactly. There's bass and pike everywhere, right?
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get on to Mitchies Fishes 5, which is like our last sort of segment of the show, my last question is, where do you get the brown trout from?
Yeah.
Such a stupid question. Maybe it's obvious, but I don't know where they
actually,
come
the
from.
great question. I never even thought of that.
No,
I'm
I mean,
like, where do they come from?
So I should say too, like the MNRF would stock the river without us. This is their program that we support. We obviously influence and whatever. So it comes from two different hatcheries, depending on the year, one in Linden or one in Chatsworth.
Okay.
And like every 4 years, we have to kind of renegotiate how many trout we're going to get. But it comes directly from the hatchery on the day of the stocking, and stocking takes place over 5 days because we do the Conestoga too. So it's a long week. But yeah, they're in MNRF hatchery system, and like it was through our advocacy that they decided to fin clip. So like this year 30,000 fish were fin clipped. Like you can imagine the amount of friggin' work that is. Like 30,000
One by
fish.
one.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
insane, right? So like that goes to show like how strong our partnership is and how much I think Friends of the Grand and MNRF are together on making this fishery a really successful one.
That's cool. Very cool. Well, it's great. I mean, it's awesome to hear more about Friends. I mean, we've heard about it for years, but dive into it and get to know more about it.
If someone's never fished the Grand River, what would you tell them? Mitch wrote that question.
Yeah. I would like don't overthink it and like walk into the water and turn over rocks, man. Like the Grand is famous for its huge fish on dry flies, but like all fly fishing, 90% of these fish are going to come subsurface nymphing. So like get here with your nymphing rig, turn over some rocks. Honestly, I got like my Grand fly box. I got like 4 flies. Like it's not rocket science. Like I got flies that are going to work or not going to work. You don't need to be crazy about it. Just like turn over some rocks, man, and try to match the size first and foremost, color second, and go from there.
There you go. Love it. Okay, Mitch's Fishes 5 times. So, Rob, this is 5 questions we ask every guest at the end of every show. The first question is, what is your favorite fish and why? If you had to pick a favorite fish, what would it be?
I like steelhead for fishing, I would say. I just like, there's just something to me about once you find them that you can get into them all day. Like, and they're just friggin' wild silver bullets, man. I just love it.
It's awesome.
They are awesome. I love steelhead. My God. Okay, number 2 is, if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's like an amazing time to go and you're gonna have great fishing, where would you go and why?
I would, interesting. This is probably because of the Grand, but I would probably go to New Zealand, fish kind of the native home of the brown trout, and just be in the mountains, and it's on my bucket list big time. Also, gold and Dorado are pretty high on my list too.
Yeah, it comes up a lot.
Yeah.
It comes up a lot.
Such
a cool fish.
So sick. That's such a great fish.
Oh, they're insane, man. I can't. I gotta go. Honestly.
Yeah.
Those are like, you got to time them like steelhead though, like, and be in the Andes in Argentina or something, right? So
Totally, yeah.
that's tricky.
That would be crazy.
And the water they
man.
live in is just like, it's crazy. It's,
It's just
it's so
insane.
clear.
I
It's
know.
wild. It's wild.
It's so cool. Okay, number 3 is, why do you fly fish? Why do you keep going back out there?
Well, it's interesting because like it grew from my passion of fishing even before fly fishing, but like why I like prefer to fly fish now is like the immersion in nature. Like to just, you've got to be so in tune with the environment. Like I say, you got to turn over the rocks, you got to see the bugs, you got to pick up, are they eating up the nymphs off the bottom? Are they eating bugs that are emerging? Are they eating off the top? Is its beak coming out of the water, or is it just its fin? Because this is not, it hasn't emerged yet. And like just the puzzle, man. When you're a kid, it's all about pounding 100 fish, and like the more the merrier. It's way less about that now for me. I'd rather even go one-on-one with a fish for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel you.
So that's it.
that.
Yeah, I love it. I love the environment. That's really what it comes down to.
I love it. Okay, number 4 is, what is one of your best or favorite fishing memories from over the years?
Yeah, well, so I'll go back to my first ever. I could think of a lot, obviously, but I'll go back to my very first big brown trout.
Okay.
So my brother and I, like, we learned to fly fish together, and he's a lot younger than me, but we literally spent 5 years fishing the Grand and like catching the odd stalker. But like, I mean, I don't even think I saw a big fish. Like, I barely even believed they existed. And I went into the shops one day, and one of the guys there was like, "You need to sit on the bank for 4 hours or you're never going to." I was like so demoralized. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. Anyways, one day we like out on the river, like I hooked a fish. It was like a 26-inch brown. On
Wow.
like a size 22 hare's ear nymph. Like, it was like, I still didn't even know what I was doing, right? I tied on this tiny little fly. I'm throwing it out there, just being a total noob. And all of a sudden, just boom. And like, when I landed that fish, I literally dropped my knees in the water and just like let out the like girly-ish scream you've ever heard. Like, it was like, oh yeah, exactly, right? And like the coolest part about that story is like I cut through a backyard that night after that, and that is my backyard now.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so that's why like I had to, like, when the house became available, like I had that like
That's
connection
so cool.
with that exact spot on the river. That picture is on my wall of that fish, and the exact fly is in the frame on my wall still.
That's so awesome.
Brother. That's so cool.
Changed my life, that fish, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh, yeah, I know.
How could that not be your best fishing memory?
Yeah, exactly, right?
No offense to Mikey Metcalf and Whitefish of Northern Ontario.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that's really awesome. That's a
that.
great story, and you kept the fly in the frame. It's in your house. It's it's awesome.
Yeah,
wow,
that's cool.
That's crazy, man. You bought the house. Okay. Number 5 is, what fly pattern best represents you and why? If you were a fly pattern, what would you be? Which pattern would you be?
Your favorite fly.
Yeah.
Which would you be?
I mean, maybe it's your favorite fly.
Could be your favorite fly.
I'm gonna say I would be like an olive green ribbed caddis nymph, because it's simple, easy to tie. It's reliable and delivers consistently.
Hey, there you go. That's perfect. That's great, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time we've heard that answer.
Well, it's not a sexy fly, but like, if I could go down to one fly in my box, that's the one.
It's caddis,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, prolific caddis hatches on that river for sure.
Yep. Yeah, and you can catch fish any time of day. Like, even when the craziest hatch is going off and they're rising everywhere, still 90% of them are eating off the bottom.
And they'll hit that. They'll hit that pattern. Yeah,
exactly.
That's always
good
cool.
to know.
Right? It's like the fish you don't see.
I'm
seeing all these fish, but I know there's so many more.
Something big's under the 100%.
Exactly.
Rob, thank you so much for coming on, man. That was really fun chatting about it. And how can people get involved with Friends of Grand River? Like, how can they join in on the effort?
You know what? There's a lot. We need more people. That's the reality too. So friendsofthegrandriver.com. You can find emails on there to reach out. But like, we're looking for people not only to be at our tree planting and our fish stocking days, but we really need more kind of like horsepower on our water studies committee and our fish stocking committee and our fundraising committee. So if anyone has any sort of like skill sets like that they want to bring to the table, marketing, accounting, social media, We're trying to build an organization that is, multi-talented, multi-pronged, that is like preparing to face the challenges that the future is going to bring to the watershed.
I love it. Okay, there you go, everybody. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, but check them out, Friends of the Grand River online. And if you haven't been to the Grand River, check it out. Beautiful place. If you're listening to this, you're probably very excited that we're finally talking about the Grand River with Rob. We've had a lot of people say, you got to have Rob on. You got to talk about Friends of the Grand River. So we're excited that we got to do this and make it happen.
Totally, my pleasure. Super cool.
Next step is, when the temps dip again, we'll go fishing together.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Rob. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Cheers.
And there's Rob.
Yeah. No, that was a really, really, it's great chat. Like learning, like I said, I think, we said it a couple times in the interview. I think a lot of people, when they think of the Friends of the Grand River, they think of just like the stalking, but if they do some much more work, obviously they do, we just talked about all this, but like landowner liaison work and clean up.
Working with like University of Guelph too and stuff, It's
and
good.
like managing a relationship with the M&R, which is great because it's the M&R stalking program. It is not the Friends of the Grand's stalking program. So to have them, usher that in. Some heavy machinery just started right outside my window, so I'm just going to close my window so we don't get any.
Please close
noise.
it. It was a great chat. Thanks again, Rob, for coming on. And yeah, we got to do some event. Speaking of events at the top of the show, we got to do something with Friends of the Grand River out there. Maybe we'll throw a shindig out in Guelph, Elora or Fergus sometime. It'd be kind of fun. Hey, a little fundraiser for the Grand.
Oh my God, it'd be so much fun. We can even do it over the winter. It doesn't have to be during fishing season,
Dude, 100%. What do we got going on? We just got back from Blue Fox Camp. We haven't talked about that yet because
we're going to do a whole show about it.
Yeah, last episode we were leaving to go to that, and this episode we're home, and it was great. And yeah, we're going to do a whole show about it, obviously. So we're not going to give any spoilers away now. You're going to have to wait for those juicy deets. But
Mitch died though, so that was weird.
It was a good trip. It was a fun one. There's so many friggin' bugs. Honestly, I felt like that was the most bugs I've experienced on a Northern Ontario trip before.
It's definitely not, but
I felt like it. Like
it did feel like it.
But I had crazy bumps on my arm. I've never had that before.
No, man. Remember
like
Elk Lake time at Elk Lake when we were carrying the motors and stuff? That was crazy.
That was a lot of bugs.
And then
I had a hoodie on that day, so that probably helped. Yeah, I had a Wamascat, yeah. Esnagami too, we got them back.
Dude, Esnagami, when you're on the river, man.
This was
pretty gnarly when you're on the river.
Maybe it was something to do with just the season, the extended spring we had.
Remember, I can't remember the guy's name, but remember it was like that father and son that was it both times that we were there?
Jeff? Yeah, his name was Jeff, I think. Yeah, Jeff. The beard fella you're talking about.
Carpenter. Redheaded guy. Remember when he came back from the river and his face looked like he had just done 8 rounds with Mike Tyson? I was like...
Yeah, he's like, have fun tomorrow. We're like, what? Because there's so many bugs, yeah. But apart from that, of course, when you go up north, you there's bugs, and we ain't no babies. But
it was a lot.
That was just one of the takeaways. It was super fun. It was a great trip. I wouldn't I wouldn't change anything for the world.
No, it was a great trip, and we'll talk all about it. But definitely big thanks to Pete and the entire team at Blue Fox. We'll just leave it. Maybe leave it at that, because it's June 26th, Thursday, in 2 days. Do you know what the fuck is going on here, Mitch?
Well, Bass is already open where I'm going.
Okay, well,
so sorry, rain on your parade.
Thanks to wind out of sails.
Nerd. Yes, Bass is opening up. Bass is opening up nationwide. So yeah, you're going to a cottage this weekend. It's Canada Day weekend, which means we have a long weekend, which is a great time to go to a cottage. So you're going to a cottage in this zone, which Bass is opening up this Saturday.
Correct.
Bass opened up where I'm going in zone 17.
Last weekend.
Saturday. So I'm gonna fish bass. And I'm excited to fish bass because we all love fishing bass and it's hot. We had a crazy heat wave here in Toronto. You cannot fish trout. It's done.
It's done.
Okay.
The Credit River, even though it's a much cooler day today, the Credit River, I was looking at the charts, is still reading 25 degrees Celsius, which is like 78.
Yeah.
75 Fahrenheit. So that's no bueno, everybody.
Yeah. No, I'm sure some listeners have their little trout waters that they monitor and,
Oh, for sure.
but don't do it. There's no trout fishing anymore. It's over. You're pike fishing now. You're bass fishing now. It's too hot. It was like 50 degrees here, man. I was in my office working.
For our Fahrenheit listeners, that's like 114.
Yeah, what is this like? What is this? The desert?
What is this?
Crazy.
Texas?
What is this? Arizona? It was crazy.
What is this? Florida?
California?
It took me so long to understand that the artist Flo Rida was just the word Florida.
Oh, that's cool. Florida. Yeah, it's hot down in Florida.
I said it once slowly like that, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But yeah, no, I'm really excited. Actually, we're gonna be actually on Georgian Bay. Georgian Bay is its own zone, but it also opens this weekend.
Oh, cool.
And which is great because I'm stoked to do.
You're gonna do smallie fishing.
We're like we're on like a cliff overlooking. Actually, the cottage is even called the Cliffhanger Cottage.
So are you just gonna like jig from the top of the cliff
That's
with
right.
like a bait caster?
Yeah. No. There's a path to the lake. Obviously,
Reel
I'm
up
going to bring
fish
our
100
Nova
feet.
Craft.
Hey, there you go. Bring the canoe down.
Yeah, and fish from the Nova Craft and see what
Be a
that's
fun
like. Hopefully, the wind isn't crazy and I don't capsize.
Oh, you'll be fine. You're a professional paddler. No one has perfected the J stroke quite like Aldino. Pescatori. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome, dude. I can't wait. I'm going up to Buckshot this weekend. Buckshot Lake, which I've mentioned a lot on this show. Because I got a family cottage up there. I'm gonna bass fish my butt off. I'm gonna get the John boat going. I got a little caddy, a new caddy, little boat caddy. I'm gonna install on that. Get the kayaks out. Just the fleet, the artillery of flies and the fleet of watercraft, and descend upon the largemouth.
You should take
catch two fish.
You should take the NRS. Oh, you have
Yes,
your kayak. What am I talking about?
I could take the NRS because that would be a fun vessel to fish from.
But you have
We've
your
got
kayaks up there though. So.
The oxbow. Yeah, the oxbow would be sick though. It's such a perfect little ache into the float tubes flotilla that we used to do when we go up there years ago.
Yeah, well, I would really like to make it up there this summer at some point.
Yeah, we're gonna go up for sure. We're gonna go up during the week, me and you. I think that's the plan.
That'd be fun.
Do a little work and then fish at night. Yeah, hopefully everybody enjoys their Canada days. Stay cool. Keep the fish safe.
Mm-hmm.
Keep them wet. Don't take them out of the water too long. All that jazz.
Poppers aside, what's your favorite bass fly?
Mouse. Is that you counting that as a popper?
Mouse?
Yeah. Or a dragonfly.
What are you, Gab reincarnated?
No, man. Yeah, Gab did love mouse flies, but who doesn't love a mouse fly? No, my favorite bass fly is a dragonfly.
Okay.
Dry fly aside, because poppers are very specific topwater. Dragonflies, I was talking about this with Nick in
Roman?
Yeah, Nick Roman when we were up in Blue Fox Camp. We're both like, yes, dragonfly flies. The bass on this pond and everywhere, I've seen them jump like 2 feet out of the water and hit.
Totally.
Dragonflies just like hovering.
I know other people that fish them. I've never caught a single fish on a dragonfly. I'm sure dragonfly nymph, larva, stuff like that.
No, like a full dragonfly, crazy colors, big old foam tail, like dumb looking thing. So much fun because it's a topwater fly.
Does sound
if
fun.
I put topwater aside, what's my favorite bass fly?
Yeah. A slampasta? A klausemana? Some sort of crayfish?
Crayfish, yeah. Crayfish would be up there. I do fish crayfish. I mean, it's like, what do I fish most when I'm fishing bass? It's either crayfish or slightly off topwater fly. Crayfish are hella effective because a lot of the time, too, if I'm fishing smallies on buckshot, I'm trying to get down 10, 15 feet, 20 feet. And I can use a heavy cray daddy and just kind of dredge. But no, there's this one fly I really like, but I can't remember the name of it. It's like a black and purple streamer. Oh, it's called like a Lithuanian bat.
A what?
Yeah, Lithuanian bat. It was like this tire. It's a 1994. It was tied in 1994. Hold on.
Up.
Yeah, look it up. It's sick. I've got a few in my box.
Lithuanian bat?
Yeah.
This
is the video, bro. This is the one I saw.
We're friends with Adis?
No, but that's so perfect because I just realized he's Lithuanian. This is his fly, brah. The Lithuanian bat. Yeah, so there was this guy on YouTube. So this video is the one I'm talking about. It's from 17 years ago.
I'm looking at it. Yeah, tying the
Flyfish, Ohio.
Lithuanian bat.
Yeah, Flyfish, Ohio. This guy named Joe Cornwall. And
That's
I used to watch
amazing.
this guy tie flies. And he tied this Lithuanian bat fly, and I tied a few. And it's always done really well on buckshot. But if you look at it, it's like, when you get into this game, it's interesting hook, but
Well, it's like a bunny leech almost.
It's like
on
a bunny
jig
leech.
hook.
It's purple. It's basically a crayfish, right? That's why I say
It's a
crayfish
jig
is my
hook
favorite.
bunny leech kind of thing.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
cool.
and it's poiple. This is a fun fly, but it's a crayfish. So and any kind of variation of a crayfish is what I like.
Wow, that's really rad.
But how about that for a deep cut?
That is a deep cut. Damn.
The Lithuanian bat. Because to be honest, I mostly fish woolly buggers for bass, but I want to answer that with a fun answer. What's your favorite bass fly, you little bastard?
I think I've got to go just crayfish.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, poppers aside, poppers are my favorite. Duh. Topwater. Duh. Super fun. Duh.
I've always preferred a mouse. Just throwing a mouse when the topwater is calling. I just throw a mouse. Throw it in the lily pads. It's so fun. It's so much fun. The bass love it, man. They love it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the hell. I don't know if I know. It's funny because you spend so much time memorizing the names of trout flies.
Yeah.
And when it comes to bass flies, you're just like, I don't know. It's the one with the legs.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit before. It's like there's so many different patterns that are basically the same fly. You change a color and they change the name, and it's like, okay, well, that's a woolly bugger with just like an orange tail. And it's called like the flaming Cheeto or something. It's like, well, it's a woolly bugger.
Yeah.
Same with crayfish. Like the Lithuanian bat is basically crayfish. Oh man.
Yeah. It's like I think much like the woolly bugger, like the full motion crayfish, I think it's called, has spawned so many almosts. Like the woolly bugger is a vamp leech, is a thin mint, is a, you know what I mean? Is like the full motion crayfish. I think it's a great fly. It's like, reverse tide crayfish. So it's all like the saltwater fly.
There's another
hook rides up.
Yeah.
The claws are back,
Yeah. I'm with you, brother. There's another fly that Rio made. I'm trying to find the name of it because it's that one that I hit you in the head with and Old Post Lodge, which is a sick pattern to use for deep water because let's be real, it's not a fly. It's like a 3/4 ounce jig with a fly attached to it.
I was thinking I'm gonna I got because the salty season I was tying a lot of toads, and toads are really great if you adapt them to even the black and purple toad is a great crayfish imitation, especially the Great Lakes. I find Great Lakes watershed.
Yep.
So I think I'm gonna tie some. I'm actually gonna bring some of my tying material because I'm a little light on crayfish flies, and it's supposed to rain like hell the first 2 days we're there. So I'm just gonna sit down, tie some flies, and drink a beer.
Do you know what also rocks? I know everybody's up on bunny leeches now, but they never really went away. But it seems like out there, there's a buzz about bunny leeches. Everybody's using bunny leeches.
Like people.
It just seems more popular. It seems more popular than ever. Just the material, like zonker strips and stuff.
People are returning to the bunny leech.
Well, I don't know if they ever left, but I don't know. It's just like I feel like it's, I love a marabou leech. It's a boring fly. It's a simple fly. It's an effective fly. Just black marabou tied up the shank. And actually, I'm on the Rio website, and they are selling one now with a dumbbell eye, which is actually that makes me feel nice. I haven't seen marabou leeches like this out in the universe quite like this. It's a great fly, a black marabou leech. Tie some of those, dude.
Okay.
Put a little dumbbell eye on it. Get yourself a bass.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't find the name of this fly, but they have this other one on the site called Bust a Seams. It's pretty sick looking, not gonna lie.
That's pretty funny. Bust a Seams?
I don't know how the heck you guys coming up with these crazy names. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to
Bass open, summer's here. Get the bathing suit on and
Yep.
crack a Muskoka. brewery beer or veer or seltzer.
The seltzers, yeah.
Speaking of which, I gotta grab a
You gotta
couple
come-
beers on my way out of town tomorrow morning.
You got to come get them, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have time tonight, but yeah, I'll grab my Muskokas on the way out, please, and thank you.
No problem.
Well, that's dope. Yeah, we'll have to do a little cottage report.
For sure. Yeah, next episode we'll do that. On the book ended, just like this.
You should take a video of you fishing, and then I'll take a video of me fishing, and I'll be able to like, hey, Mitch, how's the fishing? And then it'll cut to you.
Let's do it. We'll do it this weekend.
Yeah.
Take some clips. Have a little fun posting on social.
What? Here's the other question.
Yeah.
What are you barbecuing?
Ooh.
What are you grilling? I should say. What are you grilling? Are you grilling anything?
Maybe pineapple. Just grilled pineapple. What do you think?
Fuck yeah, dude.
I got a hanker for some pineapple.
Well, we're gonna grill some.
I'm trying to eat less meat.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I also want to make some sausages this weekend. So.
Oh, for sure. Well, we're grilling pineapple for, you know how I usually make those pork belly tacos?
Yeah.
So I could do the grilled pineapple salsa for sure.
Yeah. Those are good. Tacos are very good. Yeah, it's a big grilling weekend. That's a good point.
Big
Maybe I'll get
grilling,
some
big fishing
andouille
weekend.
sausages or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we're grilling and we're fishing. We're fishing. We're grilling. We're using Lithuanian bat flies.
Check out that pattern.
It's a sick pattern. It's a bunny leech on a jig hook. It looks. How could that not work?
Yeah,
it's purple and black bunny leech with rubber legs.
It's the Lithuanian bat, and it's about to blow the fuck up. Buckle up, bass.
You stupid bastards.
Well, thank you, Rob, for coming on the show again. That was a splendid chat. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, and it was great to finally, give some, show out some love to
the Grand
Friends of the Grand River. Yeah, obviously we fished the Grand. Probably not as much as we fished the Credit because it's just a little bit further away.
Yeah.
But I've definitely had a lot of magical days and evenings on that and mornings on that river. Surrounded by happy caddisflies, mayflies, and happy rising trout.
Totally. Yeah, beautiful place. Thanks so much to the Grand and the Friends of the Grand, and again, thanks, Rob, and thank you all for listening. That's it for me, Mitch Aldo.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify and iTunes, give us a rating or a comment. It really helps.
If you're listening on YouTube, drop a comment below. Comment on this.
We'll send you an andouille sausage.
I will.
And a Lithuanian bat fly.
Hand delivered to your house, wherever you live. Anywhere in the world. That'd be crazy.
Pretty funny.
It'd be awesome.
This person in Australia comments and you just show up at their door. Hey.
Here's your sausage. Here's your sausage. Lithuanian bat. I hope you enjoy. And then I turn around and I just walk home. Back to Canada. Thank you so much for listening. That's it for me, Mitch Aldo.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Come here.